always imagined what it would be like sitting in the cockpit surrounded by red.
Can use K1.
Insert, please.
K1 available?
Yes, I know. Insert, please.
And that you share the same dream as every single one of those people, and you get to now be a part of each other's dream. It's quite unique.
Want to keep the DRS to Charles?
You guys, this is not good teamwork, that's all I'm going to say.
They have every single ingredient needed to win a world championship here. It's just about putting the pieces together.
In China, I got out of the way when you're on a different strategy.
Understood. We swapped the cars.
Have a tea break while you're at it. Come on.
I've been dreaming of this moment. What would it be like to sit down into a Ferrari cockpit?
And pay attention, track limits turn 1. We had the second strike. Roll lap time 28, 25.
No, when I've got the first one, I have to sit down.
Very simple for it, right?
Yeah, I'm not good. Not telling me I'm racing people, I know I'm racing them there.
It was once said that in Italy there are two religions, the Catholic Church and Ferrari. But religions don't operate on logic, they operate on faith, on passion, on unconditional devotion that transcends results. Neither institution needs to justify itself. The faithful simply believe. Some names in Formula One don't just belong to drivers, they belong to history. Senna, Schumacher, Hamilton. Say those names aloud and you're not just talking about racing drivers, you're talking about legacies, championships, and moments that defined eras. Lewis Hamilton isn't just a driver anymore, he's a global brand. He's a legacy, one built on success, grit, and determination.
What a mega star we've got on our hands.
Lewis Hamilton wins! Surely the first of many. The world is at his feet.
Let's go party tonight, alright?
But look at Hamilton down the inside. The crowd goes mad.
Is that clock going slowly?
It is. It's clock. Oh my goodness me. Lewis Hamilton is the world champion.
World champion! From 14th on the grid, wins the German Grand Prix.
Miracles do happen, mate. And he is now a 3-time world champion.
They're ready to celebrate. Now they can start, because Lewis Hamilton leads the British Grand Prix.
And he crosses the line now to become the 4-time world champion.
Just so grateful for your hard work this year.
Hamilton crosses the line at 1:36.0. Wow, was that fast? Nobody could beat Lewis Hamilton's time.
That was an epic first lap.
Lewis Hamilton now only has Michael Schumacher ahead of him in terms of world championships won.
Get in there, Lewis. What a drive, mate. That is it. Champion of the world.
Still we rise, guys. Still we rise.
I'm working on a masterpiece, and I haven't quite finished it yet.
Hamilton has more wins than any other driver in Formula One history.
Get in there, Lewis. What a race, mate.
The World Championship record is equalled. Lewis Hamilton is a 7-time champion of the world.
Thank you so much, guys. That's for all the kids out there who dream the impossible. You can do it too, man. I believe in you guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support.
7 world titles, 105 Grand Prix victories, statistically the most successful driver in F1 history. And now he was joining Ferrari, the most successful team in F1 history.
And didn't honestly think that I would ever get the chance to be here at Ferrari. So it's something I'm really, really thankful for and proud to be a part of. And then this car, it's going to be my car, mine and Charles' car. I've driven the old car, a couple of the older cars that were built for other drivers, but this one's been built for me and Charles. So it's really, just that alone is really, really cool.
On paper, it was perfect. 2 legends coming together. The greatest driver and the greatest team. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and Ferrari wasn't built to change.
In 2024, Ferrari won 5 races, their highest tally since 2018. They had a genuine shot at the Constructors' Championship that went down to the final race showdown in Abu Dhabi against McLaren.
It is time to answer the final question of the season. Who will we call the champion constructor of the world?
Carlos Sainz won in Australia just 2 weeks after appendectomy surgery, an extraordinary statement from a man left without a seat for 2025 when Ferrari chose Lewis Hamilton.
And what a story this is for Carlos Sainz.
Chance to come close to me and we celebrate this one together.
What a performance! What a comeback! A Ferrari 1-2, headed by Carlos Sainz, who wins the Australian Grand Prix.
P1, baby, P1.
Good job, Carlos.
This is amazing.
Charles Leclerc finally broke his Monaco curse. After years of heartbreak at his home race, the Prince had conquered his kingdom and done it in red.
In 2017, Charles Leclerc lost his father, and in his final days, he told his father a white lie, that he'd made it to Formula One, that he'd signed the contract. It wasn't true then, but his driving has made it true now. And look what he's done with the opportunity. The grandstands he saw built as a kid growing up now rise for him. And for the first time in 93 years, this fabled race is won by one of their own. Charles Leclerc wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
We won it. Finally.
Yes! Yes, 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 yes! Oh.
Monza brought more magic. Charles won in front of the tifosi, celebrating before a sea of red. The passion was on full display, the Ferrari DNA playing out in real time.
The man from Monaco is the man for Monza. The tifosi are roaring him home. And for the second time in his career, Charles Leclerc is the winner of the Italian Grand Prix for Ferrari.
Ma come mi fai sognare? Come mi fai sognare?
Austin delivered a 1-2 finish, Charles leading Carlos across the line in dominant fashion.
Another masterclass from Ferrari's favourite son. Charles Leclerc wins the US Grand Prix.
And that's my boy. Another win.
Let's go.
In Mexico City, Carlos claimed Ferrari's final triumph of the season.
It will be only his fourth win in Formula One. He said pole yesterday was bittersweet because it gave him the feeling that Ferrari might be in a fight for a world championship and he won't be there to use it. That realization ignited a fire today. He knows the road back to the front might be long and windy with Williams, but listen to this. The sight and the sound of this crowd acclaiming their winner. Carlos Sainz comes out of the final corner for the final time. Carlos Sainz wins the Mexico City Grand Prix.
But the SF24 was suited to some tracks and hopeless at others. Canada had historically been a happy hunting ground that turned into a nightmare. Both drivers failed to reach Q3 for the first time all season. Charles retired with an engine issue and Carlos picked up damage after contact, a double DNF.
As much as we didn't overreact after Monaco, we shouldn't overreact after this one, but this one hurts. It's big points for the team with the 2 cars DNF'd that we are going to lose against our competitors. And engine-wise, it's something that we need to look at.
This came right after Monaco's high, and in Spain, tensions emerged when Charles and Carlos made contact on track.
It was Charles Leclerc ahead of Carlos Sainz. Now we see the move. Sainz leaving the track and gaining an advantage has been reviewed by race control, and there is no further investigation for this.
Yeah, there was definitely contact, and Carlos pulling Max Verstappen around the outside. That is a great manoeuvre to see.
The cracks were beginning to show. They lost the Constructors' Championship to McLaren by just 14 points. Close enough to taste, far enough away to hurt.
There's not a lot of satisfaction in me today, even though the race was honestly really good. And we've done a small miracle, I will say, but on the other hand, the disappointment can only be huge after losing the Constructors now.
But morale was high. Momentum was building. Carlos Sainz was leaving for Williams, yes, but that was fine, because Lewis Hamilton was coming.
Lewis is convinced that it's the right choice for him for the future, and we are trying to develop the team, to put everything together to be successful in the future. We know that it's a long way, but we are going on this direction, and And Lewis was convinced with this.
February 2024. Breaking news that reverberated across the world. Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion and Mercedes icon for over a decade, was going to Ferrari. But the rumours had been swirling for weeks before that.
Lewis, will you be at Mercedes next year to drive this car?
Well, I haven't signed anything yet, but I think we're thinking of meeting with Toto tomorrow, so hopefully we can get something done.
In late January, whispers began circulating in the paddock. An Italian media outlet reported that Ferrari chairman John Elkann was in talks with Lewis about a sensational move. The report claimed an announcement could come in the next few days. Most dismissed it as silly season speculation. After all, Lewis had signed a new contract with Mercedes 5 months earlier, in August 2023. A 2-year deal that would keep him at Brackley through 2025 and beyond.
It would be great, because first of all he deserves to win an 8th title. If that would be in a Mercedes, we could, close the painful chapter from the past, and I think he would regret that he's leaving the team, because the Mercedes was the fastest car.
But there was something hidden in that contract, an escape clause, and Lewis had triggered it. Toto Wolff, Mercedes team principal, later revealed how he learnt the truth. He'd heard the bells ringing 2 weeks before the public announcement. The source? Carlos Sainz Sr., the father of the driver who was about to lose his seat.
We signed the contract with Lewis. We opted for shorter term. So the events are not a surprise, maybe the timing.
Toto invited Lewis to his Oxfordshire home for breakfast on a Wednesday morning. He tried to catch Lewis off guard, telling him Mercedes had just signed former Ferrari technical boss, Simone Resta. Hamilton's response cut through the small talk. "This is what I want to do," he said. He was going to Ferrari. 36 hours later, the world found out. The internet exploded, trending worldwide within seconds.
2 of the greatest names in Formula One, Lewis Hamilton and the 7-time World Drivers' Champion, will be given the most coveted drive in motorsport when he finally
Lewis
sits behind the
Hamilton
wheel.
is going to be leaving Mercedes and joining Ferrari. Will leave Mercedes, yes, leave the team that he's become so synonymous with and join the Red Ferrari from 2025. He signed a multi-year contract and he replaces Carlos Sainz.
The news was the top story on every major outlet, not just sports news, but mainstream news too. The paddock was in shock. Mercedes employees had to be informed before the public announcement. The most successful driver-team partnership in F1 history between Lewis and Mercedes was ending after 12 years together.
Today marks the end of an era. The last day that the teams at Brackley and Brixworth will gather with Lewis before we bid him farewell after 12 incredible years. Our colleagues at Mercedes-AMG High Performance Powertrains have powered Lewis's entire Formula One career to this point. Every podium, every win, every world championship.
Ferrari's stock price surged, over 10% in minutes, an all-time high. The market understood immediately. This wasn't just a driver change, this was history in the making. Carlos Sainz had been in the middle of his winter training, preparing for the 2024 season. He'd been negotiating a contract extension with Ferrari. Everything suggested a deal was close. Then the call came. Carlos was blindsided.
I was actually hurt. I was hurt because I didn't expect it. I wasn't prepared for that kind of news. I think if it would have been someone else, I would have taken a lot more longer to understand. But when you understand Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion and one of the best, if not the best in history, is going to replace you, and Lewis has decided to do his last part of his career in Ferrari, and you need to be one of the 2 drivers sacrificed for that to happen, I understand.
The truth was, John Elkann had been pursuing Lewis for years. They'd first met in Sicily and stayed in touch ever since. When the opportunity arose to sign Lewis, no existing contract was going to stand in the way. Carlos had only been offered a short-term extension. He'd wanted something longer. But that was before Lewis changed everything. He would spend months searching for a new seat while still driving for the team that had just replaced him. Eventually, he signed with Williams. In Italy, it was hysteria. The narrative wrote itself. An aging legend chasing one final chapter. Following in the footsteps of Michael Schumacher, the only other driver with 7 world titles. Michael had won 5 of his 7 championships with Ferrari.
What an absolutely phenomenal drive by Michael Schumacher.
Now he takes an unprecedented 7th world title at the team's 700th Grand Prix.
And Formula One will rejoice, the world will rejoice if Ferrari wins it. They richly deserve to. Out come the Ferrari mechanics to greet home their ultimate hero, Michael Schumacher.
You're a great driver. You're a great driver. All of you guys. We did it, we did it.
Well, personally, it's why I came to Ferrari, to do this, so I've achieved my dream.
Could Lewis do the same? Could he win an 8th title in red?
It feels at this point in my life that it's the most exciting time of my life. Just the build up into the year, coming to the factory, meeting everyone, seeing Ferrari that I've watched for so many years from a distance, and actually to get inside and see and feel the passion within all the people, within the team, within the fans, within the town, has been quite incredible.
It was a gamble, though Lewis had gambled before. In 2012, he left McLaren for Mercedes, and nobody understood it. People questioned the decision, but 6 world championships later, the world got it. But this wasn't just about joining another Formula One team. When Lewis signed with Ferrari, he didn't just join another racing outfit. He joined Italy itself. Ferrari isn't just a team. It's a nation on a racetrack. For 60 million Italians, Ferrari is everything.
Everybody's a Ferrari fan. Even if they're not, they are a Ferrari fan. Even if you go to the Mercedes guys, even if they say that, oh yeah, Mercedes is the greatest brand in the world, they are Ferrari fans.
The tifosi don't just support the Scuderia, they are the Scuderia. When Ferrari wins, Italy wins. And when Ferrari struggles, the entire country feels it. The tifosi were ready. Italy was ready. Ferrari was ready. And Lewis Hamilton was walking into the unknown. At 40 years old, chasing a dream that could either cement his legacy or haunt him forever.
But Lewis Hamilton had watched Ferrari from the outside for 20 years. He'd seen Fernando Alonso come so close after his partnership with Ferrari started off well, only for him to lose the championship in the final race, twice.
Winning a championship with Ferrari, that will be probably the first thing that I choose. If I can go back in time, 2010, 2012, we were within few laps to winning a championship, and that probably could have changed a little bit the outcome of many things and the history behind of few things, and that was disappointing for sure.
He'd seen Sebastian Vettel arrive as a 4-time world champion fresh from Red Bull, full of belief, ready to emulate his childhood hero, Michael Schumacher. Sebastian tried to get the team working around him the way he felt he needed, the way Red Bull had done it. He was told in public by the team principal he should just concentrate on driving the car, not on running the team. He ended his time in Ferrari after 6 years of frustration and no titles won.
My target was to win the championship. We didn't do that. So in that regard, we failed, but still we had some really good years and some highlights and good races. So I don't regret it.
Lewis watched the greatest team in motorsport, the team with the most resources, the most history, and the most passion, win 0 titles since 2008. 17 years of near misses and collapses. Ferrari wasn't broken because they lacked talent. They lacked structure.
Enzo was tough. He tried to put people against each other. So I remember that after the first race was in Brazil, and I came back and he asked me, what was the car like? And I said, no, well, the Fords are quicker out going up the straight and they have more acceleration. They wouldn't translate to him.
In the Schumacher era, there was a tight-knit circle at the top. Jean Todt, the Ferrari team principal from 1993 to 2018, kept upper management away from the team. When Ross Brawn joined as technical director a year later, Todt, Brawn and Schumacher together made a pact with each other, formed a force field that would not allow them to be picked off individually in what is a notoriously political environment. If corporate management had an issue with any one of them, then it had an issue with them all. But that was 20 years ago. Fernando dominated qualifying but lost championships in pit stop strategy calls.
As you know, I'm quicker than Sasha.
It is clear.
It's clear, but the Renault is going away.
Sebastian led races, then crashed. Not because he was losing pace, but because he was losing belief in the team around him.
He just wants to get past his teammates. Oh no, he's going to puncture. They made contact.
And this is totally self-inflicted here for Ferrari.
Charles would show genius one weekend and have his races ruined the next when upgrades didn't arrive or strategies shifted mid-race.
And box now, box Kohar. Stay out.
Fuck! Why is bloody Platz through?
Tire, position 5.
Every time Ferrari got close to winning, something internal would break. Not the car, the team itself. Until 2023. Fred Vasseur arrived as team principal, and for the first time in years, it seemed Ferrari had a principal with the backing, the time, and the vision to actually fix what was broken. Alongside him, Loic Serra was bringing technical expertise from his time working with Mercedes. And Charles Leclerc, a raw young talent with 7 years of loyalty to Ferrari, ready to partner with the greatest driver of all time instead of competing against him. Lewis saw what others didn't. Not a broken team, but a talented team finally getting the structure it needed. He wasn't just joining Ferrari, he was joining a chance to end 17 years of failure. And for a driver chasing an 8th championship, that was a gamble worth taking.
We meet again to witness a spectacle like no other. Welcome to the greatest test of sport that we have. Welcome to Formula One.
March 2025, the Australian Grand Prix. The world was watching as Lewis Hamilton made his competitive debut for the Scuderia. Pre-season testing had given mixed signals about Ferrari's pace. The SF25 looked competitive in bursts, but there were whispers about inconsistency.
Can't take too much from the first outlook. I would say this is the most positive feeling that I've had in a long time.
Still, expectations were high. This was Ferrari with Lewis. Surely they would be fighting at the front. Qualifying offered early warning signs. Charles managed 7th, Lewis 8th. Not disastrous, but not where either driver wanted to be.
All in all, we just didn't quite have the pace. I was trying to find more, but that pushed me to do a few mistakes, and just the rear was quite unstable, so we struggled quite a bit.
Definitely didn't expect us to be as far off as we were.
Sunday's race began in damp conditions. There was an aborted start after Isaac Hadjar crashed. When the race finally began, Charles moved up to 5th, whilst Lewis stayed in 8th, unable to find a way past Alex Albon's Williams. And it was here where the first cracks appeared in the new partnership.
Stay more charge button on.
Yeah, no problem. Don't repeat everything, please.
Understood. Can use K1 rear close.
Into it, please.
K1 available?
Yes, I know. Leave me to it, please.
Lewis was trying to find his rhythm with new race engineer Riccardo Adami. The adjustment was proving difficult. For 12 years at Mercedes, Lewis had worked with his race engineer Peter Bonington, known affectionately to the paddock as Bono.
Lewis, so it's hammer time.
Me and Bono have been it's the longest engineering partnership that I've experienced.
Get in there, Lewis! You're the man! You're the man!
All those years, everyone was always said, like, you're the most successful race engineer. And I was like, well, normally people only get 1 or 2 stabs at it, and I've been so fortunate to have the driver, the car, and the team behind us to be able to do all those.
And that's the end of an era. Gotta say, mate, it's been epic working with you.
And I love you guys. Really, really do. I think when he said it was hammer time, I did notice in the moment, I was like, that's the last time I'm going to hear that. So it really clicked for me in that moment.
Lewis and Bono understood each other at a level that only comes from years of working together. They'd been through all of the highs and lows imaginable. But Bono had chosen to stay at Mercedes, receiving a promotion rather than following Lewis to Ferrari. Adami had spent 3 years communicating with Carlos Sainz.
We need that, Carlos. Guys, I'm at the gesture of Hamilton. Please don't ask these things. Please. Let's stop it betting. Stop it betting. I'm under pressure, guys.
It was how he'd learned to work. But Lewis didn't need that. He needed Adami to adapt to how he worked, and neither of them yet understood how to bridge the gap. Then came the critical moment. On lap 44, the rain returned. Lando Norris pitted for intermediate tyres as the rain began to intensify. Max Verstappen stayed out longer, but pitted 2 laps later when the conditions got worse. But Ferrari kept both cars out on slicks for 1 more lap, hoping the rain might ease off. It didn't.
And now Norris is close to the back of Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari stayed out on the slick tyre. Extraordinary Grand Prix.
By the time Charles and Lewis finally pitted, they'd lost precious time fighting to keep their cars on a track that was rapidly becoming a river. They emerged 9th and 10th. Charles recovered to 8th. Lewis was passed by Oscar Piastri on the very last lap and finished 10th. 5 points total from a weekend that was supposed to build on the momentum Ferrari had found in 2024.
Big part of the race, we thought P5 was secured, and then obviously the rain arrived, and then everything changed. The first one to blame is myself. After the mistake I've done exiting turn 11, we lost 3 or 4 positions there, which was then very difficult to recover. We overtook 1 or 2 guys on track, but then we were a bit too late for the pit stop, and then we lost a few other positions, so it's been a tricky day.
Yeah, overall, not what I was hoping for. But there was so much to get accustomed to, get used to, with all the switch settings changes that they were throwing at you, and then just the balance of the car. It was really very, very tricky, really tricky today. So definitely, I think we can improve that.
Fred Vasseur later acknowledged that pitting at the same time as Max Verstappen, 2 laps later, would have been the better call. They'd read the weather wrong. The faithful had come to witness a coronation. They left with questions.
Shanghai. And for 19 glorious laps on Saturday afternoon, everything clicked.
And it's the best one. The middle sector is the best of anyone out there. 1 minute to go. Still a battle rages between the Ferraris and the McLaren. Will Lewis Hamilton go to the top? He will!
Lewis Hamilton set a track record in sprint qualifying. For years, he'd dominated qualifying sessions through aggression and precision. He attacked every lap with the same mentality that had won him 7 world championships. But in Shanghai, something was different. He stopped fighting the car and had begun to unlock potential in it. The result was pole position.
Where are we? That's San Diego.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Good job,
yes.
San Diego.
Mega job.
The sprint race itself was controlled. Lewis led from lights out, fending off Max Verstappen, managing his tyres intelligently, and checked out of the race in the lead.
Lewis Hamilton is into the final corners. In this storied career, Hamilton will write a new chapter, and this time it's written in red.
Oscar Piastri had finished 7 seconds back in his McLaren, and Charles Leclerc brought his car home in 5th. When Lewis crossed the line, Ferrari had its first victory of 2025, and Lewis had his first victory in red.
Lewis Hamilton is into the final corners. In this storied career, Hamilton will write a new chapter, and this time it's written in red. Lewis Hamilton wins for Ferrari for the first time in Formula 1. He's left them all behind. A winner now for McLaren, Mercedes, and now Ferrari in Formula 1.
It's a P1, baby.
Great job, guys. Yes. Good job, mate.
For one afternoon, the story was perfect. The greatest driver in history had arrived at the greatest team in history, and they were winning together.
Starting from first in the Ferrari and winning the Ferrari is next level, man.
But Sunday would change everything. Lewis and Charles made strong starts in the Grand Prix, jumping from 5th and 6th on the grid. Then they came together.
This is Charles Leclerc on the inside, hugging the white line and the curb. He oversteers over the curb and it just knocks him wide into Hamilton.
It was a small amount of contact that resulted in Charles losing his left front wing end plate. Ferrari made a strategic decision to keep Charles out rather than pit immediately. 8 seconds in the pit box would cost more than the aerodynamic penalty from a damaged wing.
And box Charles box to protect to Verstappen. We keep same flap.
Perfect, let's see what's possible.
Box Charles box, we don't change front wing, we keep same flap.
They were trying to be clever, trying to read the race better than their competitors. When they crossed the line, Charles finished 5th and Lewis 6th. It was a solid result.
Well, guys, I know that was tough. Not the result that we wanted. But let's keep pushing. The improvements we can make for sure. Let's not give up.
But when the post-race scrutineering began, both cars were found to violate technical regulations. Lewis's car had exceeded plank wear limits, running 8.6mm instead of the required 9mm minimum. Charles' car was found to be 1 kilogram underweight. Both cars disqualified. 18 points gone. In Formula One's ground effect era, teams chase performance by running the car as low to the ground as possible. The lower the car, the more downforce generated by the floor. But Ferrari's SF25 was hypersensitive to this setting. There was no way to solve this. There were only compromises. Raise the ride height and you lose downforce, and watch the lap time disappear. Run the car low and you get performance, but you risk the plank wearing beyond the legal limit. Charles Leclerc had spent 7 years learning Ferrari car personalities. He understood where the knife edge was. He could feel the transition between the car being responsive and the car being dangerous. Lewis had come from Mercedes, which designed cars with a completely different philosophy. Mercedes cars had a much wider operating range. They forgave mistakes. They communicated clearly. You could push them and they'd respond predictably. Every time Lewis pushed harder in the SF25, it didn't give him more grip. It gave him unpredictability. This wasn't about Lewis not being fast enough. It was about a car that required a completely different approach than the ones he'd been driving for over a decade.
We made some changes because we're trying to move forward and improve the car, and we made it quite a bit worse, basically.
The China weekend, which should have been a morale-boosting turning point, instead became a painful symbol of what was to come. Saturday's triumph, Sunday's humiliation. In the Italian opera, they call this structure la caduta, or in English, the fall.
When Ferrari arrived in Bahrain, they brought a significant floor upgrade. Reshaped tunnel sections, modified floor edges, revised fences at the entry to the tunnels. It was their attempt to cure the ride height sensitivity that had caused the China disaster.
We got an upgrade this weekend, so I'm excited. We're going to hopefully have a bit more downforce. I'm not really feeling a huge amount of issues, just we lack overall performance at the moment, pace-wise, which we hopefully will take a step this weekend.
In qualifying, Charles Leclerc was magnificent. He extracted every tenth from the SF25, securing 3rd on the grid, his best qualifying of the season. Lewis found himself 9th after a deleted lap time for track limits left him with only one valid Q3 attempt.
Well, the positive, our car clearly is a lot better than what I'm delivering with it, and Charles did a great job with it today, so big apologies to the team for not doing the job.
The race told 2 stories. Charles drove like a man possessed. He ran longer on his medium tyres than anyone else, even leading the race at one point. In the closing stages, Charles began struggling on his hard tyres. With 5 laps remaining, Lando overtook him for 3rd. Charles crossed the line 4th, 3 seconds off the podium. Lewis finished 5th. Starting 9th, he produced an attacking drive, catching and passing Jack Doohan, Max Verstappen, Kimi Antonelli and Esteban Ocon.
It's a shame we lose out on the podium, but I felt that this was the best we could do today, and it's disappointing because when you have so much fight towards the end and you are fighting for the first podium of the season, the pace is just not here, not good enough to achieve that. So I really hope that soon we'll have the car in order to get back on it.
Hard afternoon to progress. It was not easy out there. Everyone's so close. The car is sometimes quite hard to drive, and I'm really working hard to adapt my driving style. That's what I really got to do.
But behind closed doors, a fateful decision was about to be made.
By late April, Fred Vasseur faced a reality that no team principal wants to confront. McLaren had won race after race. Ferrari had won 0 Grand Prix.
Same story on every single track. We want to do a better job than the week before. We did a step forward last week, but perhaps that we are not enough consistent all over the weekend in every single conditions. We had very good stint and perhaps some other a bit lower. But it's all about tire management for me now that we have the potential. We have the potential into the car and we just have to do a better job here.
The decision facing Fred was straightforward but sobering. Continue developing the SF25 for the remainder of 2025, throwing resources at a car that had proven it couldn't compete with the frontrunners, or pivot entirely to 2026. Fred chose 2026. The decision made strategic sense. The 2026 regulations represents one of the biggest resets in Formula One history. By abandoning the SF25's development, Ferrari could gain months of extra focus on the new car.
It's true that we moved to the 2026 project very early into the season, also because it's the biggest change of the F1 of the last forever, probably. Changing the sporting regulation, engine, chassis, tires, fuel. You start from scratch everywhere. It means that it's a huge change, a huge opportunity, a huge everything.
But there was a cost Fred didn't fully anticipate. For 18 races, from May through to December, Lewis and Charles were essentially racing a frozen car. While all their rivals brought upgrades, Ferrari stood still. The psychological toll would become increasingly apparent as the season wore on. For Lewis Hamilton, he had just joined the most famous team in motorsport to chase his ultimate dream. And he's just been told that they're not going to make the car any better for the next 8 months. The faithful were being asked to wait. Again.
In Jeddah, one of the fastest street circuits on the calendar, Charles secured 4th on the grid. Lewis could only manage 7th.
No, I wouldn't say I'm satisfied, but I'm happier than I was yesterday, and also through every practice session I was like 12th or 13th. It really wasn't coming easy at all.
If we look my lap, I think it's pretty clear. It's very much on the limit everywhere, but we just don't have enough grip.
The race showed Ferrari at their strategic best, but only through one driver. Charles extended his first stint beautifully, even leading the race briefly. He caught and passed George Russell for 3rd.
Building up to 200 miles per hour, building up to 3rd place in the Grand Prix. His pace on the medium tyres rewarded on the hard, and Charles Leclerc is on for a first podium of the campaign.
Well done, Charles.
Thank you, Brian.
And held off a charging Lando Norris in the final laps to secure his first podium of the season.
Yes! Come on.
Super, Charles. Super.
Lewis finished 7th, a full 30 seconds behind his teammate.
I just lacked grip. I lacked good balance. I was just fighting the car.
The gap between them wasn't just measured in positions anymore. It was measured in confidence, in understanding, in the ability to extract performance from a car that didn't want to give it. Charles had his first podium, and Lewis was searching for answers.
Miami was a weekend that encapsulated everything going wrong for Ferrari. It began with disaster.
A lot of standing water. He's in the wall. He's in the wall. We said it was wet out there. The risk of aquaplaning was big, and we talked about the risk of dropping it on the reconnaissance lap, and that's exactly what's happened to the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc.
No. Complete aquaplaning. Complete aquaplaning. I was not even pushing. I don't think I can go back.
I'm so sorry.
Charles was heading to his starting spot for the sprint when he aquaplaned into the wall, severely damaging his car. The mechanics would need to perform a miracle to rebuild it for qualifying. Lewis delivered the perfect sprint, starting 6th. He made a decisive call to switch to slick tyres on lap 11 and suddenly became the fastest man on track.
Hamilton in position to attack. He goes around his old rival, and the Ferrari fires through. They were first the slick tyres, and that gamble has paid off.
3rd place, a morale boost when Ferrari desperately needed one.
Super happy. When the Williams was all over me, I thought I was going to go further back, and definitely at that point I was like, this sucks, so I just rolled the dice, and when I came out on the soft tire, car felt so much better. I was like, thank God, maybe I should have done it a lap or so before.
But qualifying for the main race brought disappointment. Lewis couldn't escape Q2, lining up 12th. Charles, despite the mechanics' heroic efforts, could only manage 8th. The Grand Prix itself was a masterclass in how to destroy both your drivers' races simultaneously. Ferrari split strategies. Charles started on mediums, Lewis on hards. After the pit stops, their compounds reversed. Lewis now on the fresher, softer mediums, Charles on hards. By lap 35, Lewis had caught up. He was faster than Charles, and Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes sat 6 seconds up the road in 6th place. Catchable if Lewis could just get past.
This is not good teamwork, that's all I'm going to say. How we were ahead of Charles? I'm just burning up my tyres with my name.
Ferrari's verdict was to hold position, use Charles' DRS. Finally, after burning multiple laps of tyre life in dirty air,
You always just sit here, salt the whole race.
Can I come back to you?
In China, I went out of the way when you were on a different strategy.
Understood. We swapped the cars.
Have a tea break while you're at it. Come on.
Ferrari relented.
We are seeing Antonelli. Let's try to get him, and then otherwise we are going to lose more time than anything. Then we discuss after the race.
Charles let Lewis through, but by now the window had closed. Lewis pushed. Charles sat in his DRS, overheating his own tyres now. Then came the inevitable call, swap back. The radio from Lewis was dripping with sarcasm.
Sainz 1.4 behind.
Not to let pass him off.
Both drivers were frustrated. Carlos Sainz, the man Lewis had replaced, was hunting them down in a Williams. On the final lap, Carlos lunged at turn 17, hitting Lewis.
The former Ferrari man and the man who replaced him banging wheels in the final corners.
He moved a bit on the brake in there. I don't know, it's legal.
Lewis held on to 8th place and Charles finished 7th. Ferrari had been the 5th fastest team in Miami, behind McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes and Williams.
It's not good. We need to do better, and we are in a difficult situation at the moment, so I just hope we can turn that situation around as soon as possible. I don't know though if we have the solutions just yet.
Just a lot of time was lost. Of course, in the heat of moments, it's frustrating, but we will go back to, we'll internally work it out, figure out how we can improve.
The sins of the past had not been absolved. They had returned with a vengeance.
Hungary, the Hungaroring, a track known as Monaco without the walls, where overtaking is nearly impossible, which means qualifying is everything. Nobody expected what happened on Saturday.
And from absolutely nowhere, Charles Leclerc takes his first pole position of the season, the 27th in his Formula One career.
P1. What? Mamma mia, oh my God.
In a season where Ferrari had been consistently outpaced by McLaren and Red Bull, Charles somehow dragged the SF25 to the top of the timing sheets. It was so unexpected that even Charles couldn't explain it.
I was very proud of the lap, but I had no idea that this will give me pole position, and it's just crazy. I'm extremely happy.
For one glorious moment, it felt like the old Ferrari magic had returned. Charles Leclerc, starting from pole at a track where track position was everything. Victory seemed within reach. But unfortunately, Sunday told a different story. Charles held his lead at the start and controlled the opening stint, but something was wrong. As the race progressed, his pace began to fade. Not gradually, dramatically.
This is so incredibly frustrating. We've lost all competitiveness. You just have to listen to me. I will have found a different way of managing those issues. Now it's just undrivable. It's a miracle if we finish on the podium.
The team made adjustment at his pit stop. Different tyre pressures, a front wing change, but whatever they changed made things worse. Charles, who had been leading the Hungarian Grand Prix from pole position, watched helplessly as first Norris, then Piastri, then even Verstappen sailed past him. By the checkered flag, Charles had fallen from first to fourth. A potential victory had evaporated. A post-race analysis revealed the likely culprit, a chassis issue that altered the car's handling characteristics mid-race. The same hypersensitivity that had plagued Ferrari all season had struck at the worst possible moment.
From lap 40, around lap 40, we had a problem with the chassis, so now I've had more details about it. In the car, obviously, I had no idea what was going on. I mean, I had an idea, but it was the wrong idea because I thought it was something that was in our control. Unfortunately, we had an issue on the chassis, so I don't have much to add on that. It's just extremely frustrating when you are fighting for a win, when we had the pace that we had at the beginning of the race, and we lose absolutely everything later on. It's very frustrating.
Hungary crystallised the great tragedy of Ferrari's 2025 season. Even when everything aligned, the perfect qualifying lap, track position, driver confidence, something would go wrong. Not because of bad luck, because of a car that refused to be consistent. Lewis finished 6th, another race where he'd started behind and finished behind, watching the potential of the weekend slip away from his teammates' grasp.
I was just stuck where I was. Glad it's over, and looking forward to going away.
As the calendar pushed through the European rounds, the contrast sharpened. Charles would qualify brilliantly, dragging the SF25 into positions it had no right to occupy. Monaco brought him second place, heartbreakingly close to a home victory. Still, Charles kept delivering. Second in Mexico City, podiums at Spa and Austin. He was squeezing blood from a stone and finding performance in a car Ferrari had stopped developing.
Yeah, it's good to be back on the podium and let's keep pushing. But yeah, I think we worked really well this weekend, so...
Lewis, meanwhile, was drowning. 4th place became his ceiling, achieved at Imola, Austria, Silverstone and Austin. But podiums remained tantalisingly out of reach.
I think I'm slowly making progress, which is a real positive. We've made progress as a team, which is really positive. It's great for us to be the second fastest team this weekend, and to be so close to, I mean, we're not a minute down, which is really positive. Obviously, we can't do what the McLarens can do at the moment, but this is really, I think, due down to the upgrade that we've had. I think we had a better execution as a team this weekend.
Lewis wasn't losing because he'd forgotten how to drive. He was losing because every instinct he'd developed over 2 decades was wrong for this car. Lewis has always preferred a stable rear end that allows him to brake late and carry speed through corners. The SF25 gave him the opposite. Aggressive oversteer on entry, unpredictable understeer mid-corner. Every lap required him to fight against 20 years of muscle memory.
But we just don't have any stability. So when I say that, is the rear end is not planted, so it's sliding, snapping a lot. Then we have bouncing. So when you're going into corners like turn 10, the thing starts bouncing. We have a lot of mid-corner understeer, and then you apply the steering, and then it snaps, and you try and catch it. So it's different between low, medium, and high, and it's a fight like you couldn't believe.
Charles managed to find a way to understand this car. Lewis was still learning the basics while trying to compete at the highest level. And the car wasn't getting any better because Ferrari had stopped developing it. The dream was becoming a nightmare, and Lewis couldn't wake up.
I'm just useless.
Sorry, say again?
I'm just useless.
But that is it. Obviously, the
Yeah,
kids
clearly
showed up. What?
It's just drove terribly. Alright, it is what it is.
Zandvoort, the Dutch Grand Prix. A weekend that started badly and ended catastrophically. Friday practice offered no hope. Ferrari were 1.7 seconds off McLaren's pace, 14th and 15th on the timing sheets. Lewis spun twice and Charles called it the worst Friday of the season. Remarkably, the team recovered overnight. They managed to create a completely reconfigured setup that transformed the car. Both Ferraris made Q3. Charles qualified 6th and Lewis 7th.
You don't really find the consistency and build up on something, and on top of that I didn't do a good job in Q3, I didn't put the lap together, so I'm not very happy with my performance. I'm not very happy also with the car performance, but at least we kind of knew that we were going to struggle this weekend.
On race day, both cars showed genuine pace. Charles passed George Russell on the opening lap to take 5th. Lewis settled into 7th, closing on the Mercedes ahead. For the first time in months, it felt like both Ferraris might score solid points. Then came turn 3, lap 23. Light rain begins to fall, just a few drops, barely enough to notice. Lewis touches a damp painted line at the edge of the track. The rear snaps away. He tries to catch it, but the car is already gone.
Lewis Hamilton is off the road and out of the race.
Are you okay?
Yes, sorry guys.
30 laps later, the same corner would claim another Ferrari.
Antonelli's tyres are up to the working range. Oh, he hits him! Kimi Antonelli into the side of Charles Leclerc.
Double DNF, 0 points.
What created the incident is Kimi being overly optimistic in the inside of turn 3, which is fine. I mean, you've got to be aggressive and mistakes happen, but it hurts because it costs a lot to the team.
It was going okay. I had good pace compared to Charles ahead of me, and my tyres were still okay. The rear was getting a bit twitchy, and I got to turn 3 and had a snap, and I can recover.
The weekend delivered one final sting. The stewards reviewed Lewis's reconnaissance laps and found he'd failed to slow sufficiently under yellow flags. The penalty? 5 grid places at the next race. The next race was Monza, Ferrari's home Grand Prix, the most important weekend of the year.
As Ferrari, you can't come to Monza without the win somewhere in your mind. That we did very well last year. We did a pole position 2 years ago. I know perfectly that everybody into the team, drivers included, will have an extra and special motivation for this weekend. But let's be focused on our job until Sunday evening, and we'll see the outcome.
Fred Vasseur tried to find positives, but the tifosi knew. Another crushing blow to a season already drowning in disappointment.
If you want to understand what Ferrari means to Italy, you don't go to Maranello, you go to Monza. The Autodromo Nazionale di Monza isn't just a racetrack, it's a cathedral. A place where generations of Italians have gathered to worship at the altar of speed. The passionate roar of the tifosi, the sea of red that fills the grandstands, the invasion of the track after the race, the tens of thousands of faithful pouring onto the asphalt to celebrate their heroes. 2025 marked a significant anniversary for Ferrari. 50 years since Niki Lauda won his first World Championship with the Scuderia, clinching it at Monza on the 7th of September 1975, in front of a record crowd that had packed out to the circuit to witness the crown coming back to Maranello after an absence of 11 years.
Vittoria assoluta di Niki Lauda. Altre 6 vittorie in Gran Premi internazionali con Lauda e Regattori.
It was a triumph that started one of the most remarkable chapters in F1 history. Ferrari planned to celebrate in style. The week leading up to the Monza Grand Prix, they staged unmissable events across Milan. Exhibitions, fan gatherings, and a celebration of half a century since Niki's glory.
I can't wait to win Monza this year with the Niki memory, because this is for me a very important combination. The impact of Niki on Ferrari is that for sure we can speak about success, you can speak about wins, championship, 75 is a good example with the 2 titles and the win in Monza, but at the end of the day, I think it's more a good lesson of tenacity and courage.
The irony was brutal. Here was Ferrari commemorating a past championship triumph whilst their 2025 campaign lay in ruins. 0 Grand Prix wins. For Lewis Hamilton, this would be his first Italian Grand Prix as a Ferrari driver, the moment he dreamed of since childhood. He was supposed to be the man who ended the championship drought in Maranello. Instead, he was arriving in Monza with a grid penalty and a season that had become, in his own words, a nightmare. But the tifosi didn't care about that. They cared about the fact that Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc would be driving a Ferrari in Monza. That energy carried into Friday practice. Lewis topped FP1, and for the first time all season, he looked genuinely comfortable. The low downforce Monza configuration seemed to suit both him and the SF25. Qualifying brought a reminder of reality. Charles secured 4th, Lewis 5th, but with his penalty from Zandvoort, he would start 10th.
It was always going to be very difficult to fight with the top 3. We knew that the Red Bull and the McLaren had something more than us for this weekend, and unfortunately that proved to be the case this weekend. So, yeah.
On race day, the Temple of Speed filled with red. Charles battled Oscar Piastri through the opening laps, the 2 cars trading positions, the crowd roaring every time the Ferrari got ahead.
And Piastri powers by. He retakes 3rd in this never-ending battle with Charles Leclerc and immediately tries to break the slipstream and break away from the Ferrari.
But ultimately, Charles didn't have the pace to hold on. The McLarens and Verstappen simply had more pace. From 10th on the grid, Lewis launched brilliantly. He picked off car after car, Fernando Alonso, then Gabriel Bortoleto, climbing to 6th by lap 7. He pushed hard, closing on George Russell, but couldn't find a way past.
Lewis Hamilton wants another place. The crowd's cheer will tell you that he's got it, up to 6th position. And Hamilton having a very old-school Lewis Hamilton race. He's been super aggressive so far. He's a 5-time winner of the Italian Grand Prix. He's picking cars off at will.
When the checkered flag fell, Charles was 4th, Lewis was 6th. No podium, again. As the cars completed their cool-down laps, the tifosi flooded the track. Thousands of fans in red were celebrating their team despite the result. Lewis stopped the car near the podium and walked to the fence, spending several minutes greeting fans, signing autographs, and absorbing the love that poured down from the grandstands. A year earlier, Charles had won at Monza. The tifosi had stormed the track in ecstasy, celebrating a Ferrari victory at home. This year, they stormed the track anyway. Not to celebrate a win, but to show their drivers that they still believed. 50 years since Niki Lauda, 18 years since Kimi Räikkönen, and now another Monza without a Ferrari on the top step. That's what it means to drive for Ferrari. The pressure is unlike anything else in sport, but so is the passion.
I still have to pinch myself. It's so unique. There's people outside at the factory always. I've never seen fans outside of the factory before in any of my years, and you see that every single time. There's just such a positive, there's clearly just so much love for this brand.
Ferrari arrived in Brazil 2nd in the constructors' standings. They would leave in 4th and spark unprecedented public criticism from the very top of Ferrari. The weekend was a disaster from start to finish. A meagre 6 points from the sprint race. Charles 5th, Lewis 7th, set the tone for what was to come.
We've had an issue with the straight line speed since the beginning of the weekend. We don't know where it's coming from. We know we are a bit higher downforce compared to the others, and it's logic that we are a bit slower, but there's a much bigger gap than what we would expect. And we don't have the explanation for now, so that makes overtaking very difficult. At the end, we need to find something for tomorrow.
Sunday's Grand Prix was carnage. On the opening lap, Kimi Antonelli collided with Oscar Piastri at turn 1. Charles, attempting to overtake on the outside for second place, was an innocent bystander collected in the chaos.
How How brave is Piastri feeling? He hits Antonelli, who hits Charles Leclerc, and Piastri will be up to second position. But that's a dramatic moment, and there's no tyre on the Ferrari for Charles Leclerc. Piastri went all in and contact with the top two.
I think I'm stopping. The front flip suspension is broken. Stop the car. Fuck that!
His race was over before it really began. Lewis didn't fare much better. At the end of the opening lap, he ran into the back of Franco Colapinto's Alpine, damaging his floor beyond repair.
Whoa, that's big speed. 15th and final turn of the racetrack. Hamilton trying to pull out of the slipstream and get past the Alpine.
He would later retire. Double DNF. 0 points. Ferrari dropped from 2nd to 4th in the Constructors' Championship. What made the collapse more painful was the timing. That same weekend, Ferrari's sports car operation won the World Endurance Championship, having already triumphed at Le Mans.
After the hit, it felt like the rear suspension was broken. And then the loss of downforce. I think we were losing 30 or 40 points of downforce, so...
2 days later, Ferrari president John Elkann addressed an event for the 2026 Winter Olympics in Rome. His words set the paddock ablaze. He said, "If we look at the Formula One Championship, we can say that on one hand we have our mechanics, who are basically winning the championship with their performance and everything that has been done on the pit stops. If we look at our engineers, there's no doubt that the car has improved. If we look at the rest, it is not up to par. And surely we have drivers for whom it is important that they focus on driving and talk less, because we still have important races ahead of us." The criticism was direct, public, and pointed squarely at both drivers. John then referenced Ferrari's WEC win and said, "When Ferrari is united, we get results," creating a deliberate contrast that implied the F1 team lacked that unity. The message was impossible to misinterpret. Talk less, drive better.
I mean, I don't feel like there's a blame culture here. I think, look, we're all in the same boat. Ultimately, we all have to take accountability and responsibility. Whilst I know it hasn't been a good year for us, there have been so many learnings, and I think just for me personally, I feel like I've grown so much this year.
What made John's remarks especially questionable was his claim about car development. Ferrari had introduced major upgrades to fix critical ride height issues, but there had been no transformation. Lewis, John's own big money signing, had won the China Sprint, but admitted his first Ferrari year had been a nightmare.
The flip between the dream of driving for this amazing team and then the nightmare of results that we've had, the ups and downs, it's challenging.
Whatever John's intention was, it was a warning. With 2026 approaching, perhaps he was sowing seeds to react if Ferrari underperformed again.
Las Vegas, November 2025, the moment Lewis Hamilton hit absolute rock bottom. It started with hope. In final practice, under the neon glow of the strip, Lewis had been 5th fastest. The car felt right, the balance was there, and then the rain came. Qualifying took place on a wet, treacherous track that was drying by the second. The conditions demanded feel, adaptability, the ability to extract grip from a surface that changed every lap, and Lewis couldn't find it. He couldn't get temperature into his tyres. The car was understeering, refusing to turn. One of his front brakes had glazed, leaving him unable to stop properly in the corners. At one point, he hit a dislodged cone on track, and then came the confusion. As Lewis approached the line for a final attempt, the session ended. No final lap, no chance to improve. 20th, dead last. But it wasn't just Lewis. Charles qualified 9th, which was better than 20th, yes, but for a driver of his caliber in these conditions, it was another blow.
Since I joined the team, we've been struggling massively at finding the grip in those kind of conditions. It's hugely frustrating because it's probably been my biggest strength in the junior categories, and then we are doing something wrong. I have no idea what that is because we've turned the car upside down. we've had Lewis and obviously Carlos before that also joined from other teams that could tell us the feelings they had with the other cars, but it's just extremely difficult to find the grip with our car, and yeah, very, very unpredictable as well, which causes us to do a lot of mistakes. So it's not that we're not trying, because with the team we've tried absolutely everything, but for some reason we haven't found our way yet.
The Ferrari clearly had strong race pace in Las Vegas, with Lewis climbing back through the field on the opening lap despite starting on the hard compound tyre. Charles looked quick too, getting past Oscar Piastri in the opening stint. But the team lost out to Oscar by pitting Charles later, and from there he could not get ahead again. As for Lewis, he rose into the top 10 on the hard tyre, but after he put it on to the mediums, his progress stalled and he could not pick off Nico Hülkenberg in the closing stages.
What happened with the strategy? Like, how did I end up P10? I thought we were looking good at one point.
Yeah, we need to look into the second thing, or balance, or car. We check.
The race was a recovery effort. Lewis made places at the start, benefited from midfield chaos, and eventually crossed the line 10th, promoted to 8th after McLaren's double disqualification. But the damage to his confidence was done.
After the start, struggled with balance, was catching Hülkenberg, but at the slowest pace, so it wasn't really particularly quick.
It was clear the dream had become a nightmare, and there was nowhere left to fall.
Qatar brought no redemption, only confirmation. From the very first lap of practice, Ferrari were lost.
How do you look back on your first season with Ferrari?
I don't. Just look forwards.
Can we just talk about it a little bit in terms of...
There's not really much to say. It's the results are shown. There's some positives to take from it, and you just move forwards.
The high tyre pressures mandated at the Qatar track exposed every weakness in their car. They couldn't find the setup window. The balance was wrong, and there was nothing they could do about it. In qualifying, Charles fought through to Q3, but a massive spin caused by oversteer sent him tumbling down to 10th on the grid.
Carlos Sainz, Gasly, and there's no time on the board for Charles Leclerc. Deep breath, everyone. Here we go. Oh, and finally, he can't catch it. A huge high-speed spin for Charles Leclerc.
Oh my goodness. It was coming, and then it came.
Lewis, meanwhile, suffered the indignity of another Q1 elimination, 18th, for the sprint and the Grand Prix. The same pattern, the same frustration, 3 consecutive weekends knocked out in Q1. Fred Vasseur didn't hide from it. We did a worse job than the others, he admitted. We struggled with the tyre pressure prescription. We were in a tough situation from lap 1. During the race, the safety car came out on lap 7. It was what Fred called their worst case scenario, locking them into a strategy with no room for recovery. Charles pushed relentlessly. From the first lap of Friday morning to the last lap of Sunday's race, he drove at the limit. The reward? 8th place.
It's been incredibly tough, very frustrating weekend. We've just been nowhere from the first lap to the very last lap. I have no words. Very disappointing to see that amount of performance, and I just hope that we can finish on a higher note in Abu Dhabi.
Lewis fared worse. Stuck in a DRS train on a circuit with almost no overtaking opportunities, he crossed the line 12th. Nearly 16 seconds behind Yuki Tsunoda, the last of the point scorers. The contrast was painful. While Ferrari scraped 4 points, Carlos Sainz stood on the podium in his Williams, 3rd place, proving once again what he could do in the machinery that worked with him. Abu Dhabi, the final race of the season, the last chance for something, anything, to go right. It started badly. Lewis crashed in FP3. The mechanics worked frantically to repair the car in time for qualifying. They succeeded, what Lewis called a mega job, but it just wasn't enough. In qualifying, Lewis was eliminated in Q1 once again, 16th on the grid. His final qualifying session of 2025 ended in the same place so many others had, on the wrong side of the timing screen.
I think most of the lap was good enough to get through, I just didn't finish it.
And how different did the car feel after the rebuild and the great job the team did, obviously, this morning?
The team did a mega job. They deserved better for sure.
Charles at least salvaged something. The team made massive overnight changes, a huge risk that paid off, pushing him from what would have been 9th to 5th on the grid. The race itself was a tale of two drivers. Charles attacked from the start, picking off George Russell and chasing Lando Norris for lap after lap. He ran in DRS range of the McLaren through the first stint, probing for a way through that never came. In the end, 4th was all there was. Lewis, starting 16th, produced one of his better drives of the season. The mechanic's repair job held. His pace was strong. He picked off car after car, climbing to 8th, points at last.
I'm grateful for the hard work. I'll always fight for you guys. Always. That's it. You get that message. It's the one time you don't go by.
You got it, yeah, we are talking.
Ferrari finished 4th in the Constructors' Championship, 435 points behind McLaren. The statistics told a brutal story. 0 Grand Prix wins for the team. 7 Grand Prix podiums, all from Charles. Qualifying head-to-head, Charles 19, Lewis 5. Race head-to-heads, Charles 18, Lewis 3. Charles on 242 points, and Lewis on 156.
I'm very disappointed in general. I think once you are in the heat of the season, race after race, you try and keep your head high, you try and stay motivated, smile and think about the positive, but when the season ends, that's where I get. The disappointment is getting a little bit to me on a season like that, and I just need a few weeks break, recharge the batteries and go again for next year.
2026 is not on my radar at the moment. Right now I'm just thinking about Christmas, time with family, and being present and just recovering.
So where does Ferrari go from here? January 2026, Fiorano. The SF26 emerges from the garage for the first time. This is Ferrari's answer to their 2025 nightmare. A complete rethink of the car's architecture for the biggest regulation change in Formula One history. The SF26 abandons the troublesome suspension setup that plagued Lewis and Charles throughout 2025. Gone is the unpredictability. In its place is a car designed around what the drivers actually need. Stability. Predictable handling. A machine that listens instead of fights.
It's always an emotional milestone into the season, the launch. Probably even a bit more this season because it's a completely new project starting from scratch with a very short winter break also. That it meant that I think it was full of emotion today for everybody, and I'm pretty happy because it went well. But it's also the start of a new journey. Now the season is in front of us and we have to be focused on this, but I think it was quite emotional for everybody.
And then came Barcelona, the first test of the new era. 5 days behind closed doors. And on the final afternoon, Lewis Hamilton set the fastest time of the entire test. It was just a test, the usual caveats applied. But for a driver who had called himself useless, who had qualified last on pure pace, it meant something.
Yeah, I would definitely say more enjoyable, but we definitely have work to do to improve, of course, like everybody does. But I think we've had great debriefs. Everyone's really on it. I really feel the winning mentality like in every single person in the team more than ever, so it's a positive.
Charles was the third fastest. The car ran reliably. Something had changed.
It's been a positive one. Obviously the first day was a tricky one because driving on the wet in those conditions wasn't easy, especially with a completely new car. To make sure that everything was working properly in those conditions was very difficult, but I think it's a very good experience and a very valuable experience going forward in case we drive on the wet during a race weekend. All the tests we wanted to do, what we had in mind, we did. And now last afternoon with Lewis, which I hope will go through the last couple of things we wanted to try, and then we'll start focusing on Bahrain.
Of course, this is Formula One. Unblemished hope is never allowed. A controversy over engine regulations was already brewing. Mercedes and Red Bull were accused of exploiting a loophole that could give them a significant advantage. Ferrari were lobbying the FIA. The new era threatened to begin under a cloud. But Ferrari has weathered storms before. In the end, Ferrari's 2025 season is a story as old as the Scuderia itself. Great drivers arrive in Maranello with dreams of writing the next chapter of the legend. Sometimes they succeed. Michael Schumacher wrote 5 chapters. Often they struggle against the weight of expectation and the intensity of scrutiny. But it's this culture that makes Ferrari both magical and maddening. Enzo Ferrari once said that if you ask a child to draw a car, they certainly will draw it red. That romanticism is Ferrari's greatest strength and its greatest burden. Lewis Hamilton arrived at Ferrari chasing something that 7 world championships couldn't provide: the magic of red. Instead, he'd endured his toughest season in recent memory. But then he went to Barcelona in a new car, and he set the fastest time. That's not a championship. It's not a victory. It's not even a promise. But it's a start. That's the thing about religion. It doesn't require results. It requires faith. And the tifosi have never stopped believing. As Sebastian Vettel once said, everyone's a Ferrari fan, even if they say they're not. Even after a nightmare season, the dream remains in Maranello. So that was the story of Ferrari, or shall I say the opera of Ferrari, the big theatre production of Ferrari. The greatest driver in F1 history joining the most iconic team on the grid, and it was supposed to be destiny, and instead became a very difficult season to watch, and an even more difficult season for Lewis to endure, I'm sure. So let's talk about what we witnessed, because Ferrari's season wasn't about the championship fight. It was about a cultural clash, impossible expectations, and watching a legend struggle. So 40 years old, leaving a team where he won 6 world titles and joining a team that hadn't won a championship in 17 years. He's following in the footsteps of people like Alonso and Vettel, who had both been left heartbroken by Maranello. So do we think that Lewis's move to Ferrari is genius or madness?
Ooh.
I think it's kind of somewhere in between. I think if you look at a team like McLaren, I think that it proves that you can have a significant turnaround in your results and upturn of championship hopes. I just think it takes a monumental effort and a lot of groundwork to get there. I think sometimes heritage and history can be a great thing to look back on, but you might end up breaking your neck because you're not looking forwards. And I think that is Ferrari's greatest hindrance, is that they do get the basics quite badly wrong, where they really shouldn't. And I think when the pressure cooker gets turned on and they are trying to operate at the highest level, I think if they stay in that state for too long, instead of being able to handle the heat, they end up boiling over and something goes awry. I think when we're talking about it, and we've spoken about the Michael Schumacher era, for example, the point that I pulled from that script-wise was talking about how they created a sort of a homogulated seal around those people to say, this is our invisible force field. If upper management have a problem with you, they have a problem with all of us. And if you guys, one of you goes, we all fucking go.
Well, it was that unity that John Elkann was saying it needed.
Yeah.
And ironically, it was being used against him.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that is what it does take. I think that tells you that the Ferrari upper management, where they feel that they haven't quite got the ingredients quite gelling, they go into this manic state of just swapping out perfectly good ingredients. They just haven't created a culture in which all of them can thrive in harmony. And that means that you're constantly restarting. I've said it quite a few times in this podcast. I think Ferrari are constantly stuck in a state of transition, trying to transition from where they are to where they want to be. Now, Sir Lewis Hamilton is a very, very good racing driver, hence the 7 titles. But he joined in 2007, which was, the year before the last title that Ferrari won. If they listen to Lewis Hamilton and they take on board the things that Leclerc from Mercedes has to say, they might have a fighting fucking chance at being able to get there. And suddenly, Lewis's move to Ferrari looks like genius, not madness.
I don't think his move to Ferrari is necessarily like madness or something that was bad, because, he has won 6 world championships with Mercedes and he got offered only a 2-year contract. So it was fair enough for him to want to change teams and try and have like another shot at winning a championship. But I think what it's done is that it has kind of ruined his reputation a little bit, especially for new fans, because coming from my perspective as someone who only started watching F1 in 2025, obviously through the podcast I've learned about the legacy that Lewis has and the legacy that Ferrari has, and I know that he's a very, very talented driver. He's one of the most talented drivers to ever hit the grid. But if I was coming into the sport and I was only seeing it from 2025, I would think, well, he's not that great, is he? Because he's not really done much. He's not gotten himself a podium all season. He's been very behind in his performance in comparison to his teammate Charles. In a lot of his interviews as well, he just really looked and sounded defeated. And at some points in the beginning, you would see it in the beginning races where he would seem still very motivated, very hopeful, saying, we're going to bring in changes, we're still discussing, we're going to try and improve for the next one. And at some point, halfway through the season, he just seemed to be like, yeah, I don't know what I've done. It's the car. It's me. I'm not in the right mindset.
Yeah, he hit a wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this isn't new though, for those people like yourself, Reem, that have only watched it for 2025. Lewis's sort of dejected, sulky, downward-looking sort of look in his interviews and the things that he says. Unfortunately, I would say since 2022, the start of that season with our, the new ground effect era of cars, where Mercedes went for a zero side pod concept, which they thought was going to be the best aerodynamic efficient solution for the new era of cars. And it took them a season and a half far too long to realise that they'd gone down the wrong aerodynamic solution route. And the person in the background that was saying this is not what we should be doing was Lewis Hamilton. There was another person on the technical side that was saying the same thing, and that person was Leclerc, who has now moved over to Ferrari. So Lewis had quite a few seasons where, one, he'd been beaten by his teammate George Russell, which was, for the years I've watched Formula One, it's one of the first times I'd ever seen Lewis be defeated by a teammate. And I think that started a trend where he didn't feel like he was being appreciated or valued in Mercedes. And I think he felt, I've been here for a decade. I'm one of the people that have led you guys to the top. And now that I'm telling you this car feels wrong, you're listening to what George Russell is saying more than you're listening to my input. So as you say, he took his stock and he took it straight over to Ferrari to then have a car that hasn't been developed and created for him that he's got to put up with. That's one thing. But we all heard document gate. Yeah. Lewis was sending in loads of documents to Ferrari. He wasn't happy. The worry that I have is that, yes, maybe they've looked at those documents, but where we talk about culture clash, would Ferrari, this Italian team that, speaks Italian, and speaking Italian is a big thing over there, and they have Charles Leclerc who can speak Italian. They've had people like Sebastian Vettel who can speak Italian. Even Nico Rosberg, who's never driven for Ferrari, can speak Italian. But Lewis can't, and even though he throws a few lines out there, I'm not buying it. He can't speak Italian.
No.
And he has not done any interviews where I've seen him speaking Italian, apart from like grazie a tutti, which I can say, and I don't speak Italian. So I do wonder, is there a clash of culture where the way Lewis is approaching it is how he would have approached things at Mercedes? And instead of being able to recognise this team, this culture is embedded in an entirely different way of working to the rest of the British teams sitting on that paddock.
Yeah. And as you say in the script, Ferrari wasn't built to change.
No.
So it seems like overall there's a bit of like a communication issue.
You think?
Lewis had it when he was in Mercedes. where no one was listening to his views on the zero side pod era. He had the same thing in Ferrari, where seemingly everyone is leaving his emails on red. And of course, he has had issues with Adami, his race engineer at Ferrari. But Gale's Ferrari has shifted Adami elsewhere.
Good.
He is no longer going to be Lewis's engineer. 2026 will see him having a new race engineer altogether. Do we think that is going to make a difference?
Yeah, good riddance. I mean,
whoa, she feels strongly.
Well, it was as fans of the sport, it was entertaining to listen to all the radio messages.
Oh, extremely.
Yeah, it was all very dramatic, and the stuff that Lewis would come out with, like, make a cup of tea, why don't you? Like, that's like one of the highlights of the season. But, I mean, that is like the bare minimum they could do is change his race engineer, because clearly there was a lot of miscommunication there, and he was just not helping Lewis at all. And I mean, the car is already hard to work with, and the strategy from the engineers is always confusing. Well, you can't just then, on top of that, just let him have like a really bad race engineer as well. So it's good that they've gotten rid of him, because if he gets someone who actually understands him for 2026, who he can communicate with and get the information that he needs, I think his performance will be slightly better. It's not going to change his performance completely, it's not going to change the car, but it will make things a little bit easier for him, and I'm surprised they haven't made that decision a lot earlier.
I mean, I think it will be a similar problem, personally. If we think about the timeline of when Lewis would have inherited Adami as his race engineer, he would have gone into the winter of 2024, finishing his season with Mercedes and then transitioning over to his work and training ready for the 2025 season debut. And he would have then started working over winter here and there with Adami. And then from there, he would have started a few weeks, a few days of testing, and then straight to Melbourne and started the season. And even though it might be a good thing that Adami and him aren't working together because they didn't exactly gel or have the greatest communication during races, this is still the same amount of time to get up to speed with somebody else.
Yeah.
I think realistically, without sounding weird, I do think that he needs someone British as his race engineer. I think that having a barrier of accents, of cultures, I think does actually create a larger gap in bonding than you'd realise. If you look at Bono and Lewis, they see each other as brothers. They're incredibly close. I think they grew up together. But I also think that Lewis might be approaching his radio and the way he wants things as though he's still sitting in Mercedes as the lead driver of that team. Whereas I would argue currently, Charles Leclerc is the leader of that team. And I think that a lot of the elements that Lewis needs to succeed are all out of whack currently. He's got a family over at Mercedes, and I don't know that he feels the same way with Ferrari. And having a race engineer is the main point of contact that you have to the pit wall, the main point of contact you have for your race, and the main point of contact to understand what you're doing, where you're going, what's happening. If we throw back to Monaco, do you remember that Adami was basically saying, like, this is our race now, this is our time? And it was like, when we were watching on telly, we were like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Literally.
Like, what have I missed? What's happened? I'm looking at Lewis and he's like distantly just ahead of the midfield, just below the front runners. What the fuck is about to happen?
Yeah.
And then he just pitted. And I was like, what is going on? And Lewis came into the pits and even the broadcasters were slightly confused about, like, what's he about to do? What the fuck is he about to do? And basically Lewis was like, okay, so what's going on? And he kept giving him race times to people that were much further down the road. And he afterwards was basically like, yeah, I wasn't getting the information that I needed, but I was getting information I didn't need.
Yeah. And then at the end, just completely ignored and was left saying, are you ignoring me?
Oh, that was so awkward.
So
are you angry with me or something? Oh my God, it was like an awkward sort of breakup going on. So I think all of that, how can Lewis be sitting in a cockpit knowing whether to push, whether to pull, whether to bring in his tyres gently, whether to be able to put them in aggressively, who he's fighting, who he's battling, who he's not, all these different things. There was even points I saw in the season where Adami would be saying like, oh, there's blue flags, and Lewis would be like, there isn't blue flags. Like, there's not, I don't know what you're saying. Things like that. And Lewis is looking at the small little LED boards as he drives over 200 miles per hour. And he can see that it's not flashing blue. So that's just, a huge amount of awareness and IQ from Lewis. this, but if he didn't have the capacity to do that because he's focusing on the track, he's relying on Adami to give him that correct information. So I do think there was a lot of instances where I don't think that they were friends first. I don't think they created a bond like Lewis and Bono did. And I think as well as that, with the car not working, his steering wheel being completely different, having a different, suspension setup, having a different Ferrari engine as opposed to Mercedes. I think all of those elements added up to the agitation we heard in Lewis, and then that really downtrodden attitude that we saw in all of the race interviews. So although Adami going is great, I don't know that's going to solve everything for 2026. Okay. What might would be if it's a car that's really fucking fast, and imagine if it topped the timing screens for testing. Oh, wait.
Nice. I like it. So you mentioned him. Let's talk about him. Ferrari's golden boy, the boy they are pinning all of their hopes and dreams on. Do we think that Charles Leclerc is the future of Ferrari, or is he just trapped in the same cycle over and over again every year? He's been with the team for 7 years now. He's seen 3 different team principals. He's somehow managed to deliver some really brilliant drives without the proper machinery needed to win. How long do you think he gives it in that team before he says, I've got to tap out. It's not happening. They're not going to give me my championship. The rumours have already started.
They have. And I think in Formula One, there is no engine smoke without fire.
Nice.
I think that when it comes to Charles Leclerc, I think that he is quite rightfully saying, I've done my fucking time. When are you going to give me another chance? Because I'd argue that 2022 was Charles Leclerc's chance to fight for a championship. That car was fantastically fast, and Ferrari seemed to really understand the aerodynamic regulations. What let them down was strategical errors, driver errors, contact, and also engine failures. Once again, Ferrari had a chance to win, and they bottled it and handed that championship over to Red Bull and Max Verstappen. However, I would argue that in the last few years, I think the Charles has really transformed and has gotten to be a much more complete driver. I think this year we saw a lot less of those sloppy and silly mistakes where he pushes the car over the edge and then makes a silly mistake and clonks it into the barriers. I think that he's taken the challenge of having Lewis Hamilton as a teammate really graciously.
Yeah.
I love that he calls him LH. I love that. Love it. Don't know why. I like it in his accent. But I think that he's joined the team in 2019. He was in Alfa Romeo before that. How many more seasons can he wait? He's in the prime of his time. He's really fast. He's best qualifier on the grid, in my opinion. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
One lap pace is absolutely phenomenal. And he's a very affable, nice, decent guy.
He's bloody gorgeous too.
He's absolutely fucking stunning. Honestly, he's stunning. So I think he's very marketable. He's brilliant with with the interviews and stuff. He's always very well mannered. I think that he is any team's dream driver in many different regards. I'd say that if 2026 is not all it's cracked up to be, I think silly season is about to get Charles Leclerc silly. No, that doesn't work. I think it's going to get silly. Cut this out.
I think he's going to give them a year. I think 2026 will be the deciding year, and then if he's still not in the running for a championship, I think he's going to move to another team. Because I think if Leclerc was in any other, championship running team, he would have already won one. I didn't say that correctly.
Where do you think he goes?
Maybe McLaren.
I think Mercedes. I think he'd work really well.
Really?
Mercedes. Yeah. I think Mercedes would have the right amount of resources that would match Ferrari, but I think they have much better strategy calls, and I think they have a much cleaner culture than Ferrari do. I mean, look at how long Toto Wolff has been in the sport. He's been there, over 15 years. So I think that sort of stability, I think, would really suit Charles. I think that would work.
But I think if Max, for whatever reason, was to leave Red Bull, then Leclerc would be the best to replace him.
In Red Bull?
Oh. Oh,
God.
I think it would be really weird, but I think Leclerc going to Red Bull while Max is there wouldn't be right. But I think if Max was leaving, Leclerc would be a great replacement there.
Interesting.
I think it would change the face of how that team operated, though. I think that would
But
be
Laura
a really
Mekies is
big
already
change.
trying to do that.
I agree, but I think it would be such a different sort of shift. You go for a very French team suddenly. I think you'd have a team suddenly that were like gritty, hard-working, but suddenly that Red Bull sort of razor blades on the elbows has completely dissipated, and that is a team that has always been like that.
But the team needs a rebrand.
I agree, but I also would kind of miss that edge that they have. I think Charles Leclerc's a nice boy. I don't think he's a bad boy.
He can be feisty too.
I don't think he can be feisty.
Oh.
I think he's perfectly pleasant. He plays chess with Lewis. I mean, like, you know, he makes ice cream. How like, it's not really bad boy behaviour, is it?
What about Williams? Because I feel like Williams...
All of Ferrari's rejects can't just go to Williams afterwards.
Yeah. I really like Williams, but like, no, I think he deserves a little bit more than that. I think Carlos Sainz deserves more than that.
Yeah.
I actually think Alex Albon deserves more than that.
But I think Williams is going to be on the same level that McLaren is. I think they're getting there. I think they will become one of those teams that are genuinely competing. So that's why I'm thinking, you know, what if Charles goes there and reunites with Sainz, sorry Albon, but like reunites with Sainz, and then they're in a team where either of them could actually win.
Okay, so where are you moving Albon to? He's a lovely man. He's just engaged. He needs a job.
Back to Red Bull.
Oh.
Weirdest decision ever.
Go relive your traumas, Albon.
Yeah, legit. He's like, fucking hell, like sloppy seconds. He's already done that. He's gonna have PTSD. I would also like to say, I think that Ferrari need to be giving Charles Leclerc so much of a bonus. It's crazy. All of the bonuses that they can throw him. Because if it wasn't for Charles, I mean, 7 podiums.
Yeah.
How the fuck did that happen? 7 podiums in that Ferrari that was so inconsistent, so up and down. Sometimes they'd be really in the mix, other times they'd be nowhere. Charles rang the neck of it, left, right and centre. And I think that his haul of points massively helped them get 4th in the Constructors. I know it's not where they wanted to be, but I'm sorry to say, if you just had 2 Lewis Hamiltons, you wouldn't be anywhere close to that number.
Yeah. I mean, going from 2nd to 4th in the championship must have hurt.
It must have hurt, but I feel like if they had a clone of Lewis in that car, they would have been coming home 6th.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I am right.
Okay, so let's talk about the 2026 season then to wrap up our episode with the roundtable discussion. Obviously, Lewis had set the fastest time during practice. It is just a practice. It doesn't mean anything, but it can give the tifosi some hope. And the look on Lewis's face afterwards, like he was beaming. He was so happy. The happiest he has been in about 5 years.
I've seen a lot of contrasting articles. Some people are saying that they are quietly confident over in Maranello, and some people are saying that actually up and down the paddock, Lewis doesn't seem very happy.
Oh.
I know. So it's all very up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, it doesn't help that it's a closed practice.
No.
So there's also like no proper clear idea of what's going on.
Well, this is how it used to be. This whole like televised practice thing is very new. So this is how it used to be. But it does make it hard to track what's happening. Because I think everyone's starting to get a bit more excited for racing and everyone's like, oh, what's happening? And the media's like, we don't know.
Yeah. But what we do know is that Ferrari also did over 100 laps without any reliability issues. Now, historically, Ferrari don't make the most reliable engines during the engine reset years, but over 100 laps without any issues is looking kind of good. So for the roundtable discussion, where do we think Ferrari are going to finish in 2026?
P2.
P2?
Yeah.
I was going to say P3.
I was going to say P5.
Oh.
You put racing balls there.
Did I?
Make up your mind.
Yeah.
Make up your damn mind.
P4.
I think P2. I think Mercedes are going to win this year. And I think the Ferrari are going to be P2. I think it's going to be mental. I think it's going to be the Italian driver of Kimi Antonelli against the Italian team. And I think it's going to be ex-teammate on ex-teammate from George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. And actually, who will end up winning? The tifosi, because Charles Leclerc will win.
Thought you just said
Mercedes P1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, shit. I think it's going to be... Well, no, to be fair, driver's title.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to get P2 in the
You
championship.
think Charles
I think that they'll be
is going to
narrowed.
win a driver's championship this year?
I think, okay, here's my... Okay, do you want to dive into this?
Go on.
Yeah? Okay, fine. I think that in a dream scenario, in my mind, I would watch Ferrari have to battle against themselves. Race in, race out. Every single race weekend, it would be Charles versus Lewis. And it would cause so much fucking drama. I wouldn't need a Drive to Survive. I just need Can Ferrari Survive on Netflix. Because I think that would be so entertaining. Because this is a team that struggles to keep them all together, let alone keeping them all together whilst they're also split in half. However, our resident and favourite Karen of George Russell would be such a little motherfucking nuisance if he had a competitive car. I watched an interview of him and he looked like he literally could not stop smiling.
He looked like he was about to cry happy tears.
Yeah, it looked like someone was off camera tickling his balls the whole time that he was talking. He had this really, like, this smug knowing, like, you don't know what's going on off camera. And I think that either someone was tickling his balls or that car has been tickling his balls in all the right places in that cockpit because it's fast as fuck. And I think it could be against Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Kimi Antonelli, and George Russell.
Are you discounting Red Bull?
Damn.
I am for the minute because they're making their own engine and I'm a little bit nervous for them.
Fair.
Okay, but you also think that Leclerc beats out Lewis?
Yeah.
I think that Lewis Hamilton, if he's comfortable within that car, he was saying that I think he thinks that this generation of car is a bit more fun to drive.
Mm-hmm.
If it matches Lewis's driving style, I think we've got a fucking dogfight. However, Charles Leclerc has got 7 years more experience of driving Ferrari-powered cars. He's going to have 7 years of PTSD from Ferrari. I think the idea of him having Lewis Hamilton coming in for his second year in Ferrari and trying to, 1, end the championship drought, and 2, get his 8th title when Charles Leclerc hasn't got his first, I think he will fucking pick up his own car from his garage like a Herculean sort of act of God and throw it over at Lewis. I think that he would rather watch the world burn than that happen.
Well, it's giving Oscar and Lando, isn't it?
It is. And do you not think that, I don't even know what my point is anymore, do you think that Lewis versus Charles Leclerc, Ferrari on Ferrari, would not be the most epic thing you've ever seen?
No, it would. But we might end up seeing red rules. Because if Ferrari are also supporting Leclerc, but Lewis is up for a dogfight, I mean, you said it, Charles has the 7 years of experience of being in Ferrari, but you also can't underestimate how much the brain power and the confidence and the knowing how to win a championship plays into it. The main thing that we were saying about Lando Norris in his fight for the championship in 2024 against Max was Max knows how to win a championship, Lando doesn't, and it shows.
That is true, I agree, but Ferrari have a real choice to make. How does it make their driver look if he's someone that's gone up through their junior program and has paid his dues over in Alfa Romeo, has been promoted up to the main team, has been able to give them a load of wins and podiums and help with direction and has been very loyal to them, and then they do this big wanky big money signing for Sir Lewis Hamilton. He's an absolute stinker in his first year, and then he comes in, ends the championship drought, gets his 8th title, and fucks off for the end of time. I think Charles Leclerc would punch everyone.
But then also on the flip side, how does it look that they've done this big signing and he's not even the one to win the championship? Why bother getting him?
What, you could say the same thing with Lando and Oscar.
Well,
what was the point of having Oscar there? He crashed in Baku. What a loser. Like, you know what I mean? You can spin it anyway. I think that it will be the same thing. I think Charles Leclerc has the loyalty of Ferrari, whereas Lewis is giving them the expertise they need to get the loyalty for Charles to get him to win.
What users?
Yeah, but I think that'll be part of it, won't it?
Yeah.
What better way to win than asking, can we hire someone that's won quite a few times? And they're like, sure, no worries.
Just steal all of their IP.
Exactly.
Okay, bold prediction for the 2026 season for Ferrari. Can I give mine first?
Go.
Sure.
Double podium in the first race.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
We're quite optimistic
boys in
here
red,
for Ferrari
the
2026.
boys in red are going to come out swinging.
Oh, I feel like I'm on a...
And then it's all downhill.
I feel like I'm on a completely different wavelength to the both of you. I think you're both very optimistic about Ferrari in 2026 and I don't really see it. I feel like...
The tifosi never stop believing. We're not Italian, we're not tifosi. But for this episode, we've channeled them.
Listen to the opium of the masses.
Mine is... which I kind of mentioned already, I think end of 2026 it will be announced that Charles is moving to a different team and I think Lewis will retire. Or it will be one of those situations, but I don't think it will be the same driver lineup for 2027.
My bold prediction is that Ferrari will be leading the Constructors' Championship by the summer break.
Damn.
Ooh.
Not by much. It could be even a single point. But I think that they will be... I also wonder if a bold prediction will be that they will come out swinging for China for the redemption arc from 2025 of the double disqualification to a 1-2 in the sprint race to be like, this was for 2025.
Okay, final question of the roundtable. What is your confidence level in Ferrari winning the 2026 Constructors' Championship?
8.
6.
8.5.
Jesus.
Yeah.
To be fair, to just put this in context, people that have only listened to this episode and think that I'm like smoking actual marijuana and or crack or something, my confidence in Mercedes is like a 9. So put that in perspective of what I'm saying now.
Don't spoil it. There's still 2 episodes until that one.
As I was saying, the confidence I have in Mercedes is redacted.
There we go.
Mine is a 6 because I have other teams in my head for P1 and P2 for constructors, which I won't reveal now. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really that hopeful.
Can't wait to rub it in your face.
We'll see.
When they win 1-2 for the rest of the whole of the 2026 season.
Damn. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I can't relate.
Okay.
Okay, well, that is the red curtain falling on the red team.
Ooh, I like that.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Told you I had a good line.
You did.
That is the end of the Ferrari episode. We will be back again in 1 week's time for the next team. The team that came third in the constructor standings, which was...
Red Bull Racing.
Oh, yes, and they had quite a dramatic season. So there's...
Was it Red Bull Racing?
Yeah.
Mercedes came P2?
Yeah.
Jesus, this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Damn.
So we will be back in your ears in a week's time talking all about Red Bull Racing. They had a dramatic season, so you better get your laptop out now and just start the research because there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I will in my downtime away, when I'm not doing my full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
But, I actually think in society sleep is actually very overrated.
So overrated?
Yeah. I'm running on 90 minutes sleep so far. This Ferrari episode. You got to go method with it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You channeled Ferrari. It was actually
also,
quite
I wrote
funny.
it whilst I was wearing red.
Yeah. And your face turned red as well.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, with this episode, right, with Ferrari, it's like, how far do you go with it?
You went very meta.
I know. It was like, I felt like I was saying to Reem this morning that I feel like I'm going to look back at my script and I've just written the word Ferrari 4,000 times whilst dribbling, and I just had a complete fever dream. I didn't write anything. So
I was sound asleep while that was your thought process.
Yes, that was. But I'm very grateful that actually I didn't just write Ferrari 4,000 times, that I did actually write once.
That would have been a boring
episode. You never know. Yeah, incoming for the script for Red Bull.
Red Bull Racing, Red Bull Racing, Red Bull Racing. Okay, well, you can follow us on socials if you like all of our episodes and you've liked all of our content. We are available on Instagram, X,
We
TikTok,
have individualised
and
Instagrams now.
Yes, we do.
So follow, shut your mouth. Follow your favourite grand prick of us three. Only follow the one that is your favourite.
No,
So
why are you trying to divide?
It's at Grand Prix Snav, at Grand Prix Izzy, and at Grand Prix Stream on X and Instagram. Follow me.
Oh.
No, follow me.
Girls, it's giving desperate.
Hey!
We're going to get so
Marketing's
competitive
everything.
with this.
Yeah, we are.
No, why are you girls trying to create division?
Okay, fine. Follow us all, I guess.
And if you follow us all, you will be able to see some exclusive content that only we are working on. I've got a little social series that I'm cooking up that I'm going to start off.
It's an OnlyFans. Nav gets her tits out for the lads.
No. Not happening, just so you know. But it's also an opportunity for you guys to get involved in discussions with us and actually know who's replying to you. And yeah, just start chatting to us.
We're people. We're not a corporation.
But anyway, follow us on socials. Share us with friends. Share us with family. Share us with co-workers, haters and pets. We don't care. We just love all of the support.
Well, we don't like support MAGA.
No.
Okay.
Well, I didn't say that.
Well, the haters might be MAGA.
Oh, don't share with them.
No, don't.
There's a line.
There's a line. You should know that. You're adults.